key elements are like how much our efforts we are putting on develop phase. Similarly, in discover and design phase also, we have to at least focus on the initial stage so that uh, development will not go for a toss. So, and we just try to understand persona, etc. So for discover phase, we what we try to understand if the requirement with the discussion with client can go for a single day or it can go with subsequent meetings. It could certain use cases where it can go span across like 2 3 months as well, because there might be, it's a complex scenario. When multiple stakeholders are involved, it always, they'll have a different perspective around the same idea. And for the developers, etc., the requirements may be, may not be very vague. So what we try to do is we try to different stakeholders when we are trying to meet, we try to take a sample of a persona as a reference, like it's a resume, like what I was trying to say. So, and we try to fit in all the requirements in terms of, one requirement as a CV around, and then we try to visualize it what exactly they really need it. So that gives us the clear perspective of what exactly they are trying to do with the application. Once we know their tasks, we can build the features and we can suggest the recommended features as well. So only once we understand the requirement clearly, then only we can suggest them such certain features, or we'll know that we can do in many other ways. If not, we just try to build what are they ask, we try to build, and it goes for a scrap, because whenever user asks something, they doesn't mean that's what they want. Okay, it has many meanings. So we try to understand about discover phase. Now today we'll try to understand about design phase, where I already mentioned that we can use build tool, Agile tool, or you can use Adobe XD. If you are using a MacBook, you can use Sketch as well. So all the four are recommended, but officially SAP doesn't recommend build tool for custom Fiori apps as such. But if you are working for only Fiori apps, build tool is the go-to place for designing. So prototyping allows us to, what are the persona we have built. It is to, we are trying to construct it in terms of a prototype. Like you can call it as a POC or a high-level wireframe or a prototype. So all this allows us to experiment our ideas on the wireframe. Once we experiment those ideas, we can demonstrate within our team. We can collect some more requirements. We can demonstrate very quickly. So it hardly takes a day or a two. So if we are really working on a max 3 days, so in 3 days time, we can, if certain requirements like custom requirements may not be feasible in UFA, there could be a case where they might be asking a completely a different chart or something which is not available in UFA. Maybe they might be asking a certain functionality which is not a standard functionality which SAP offers. There could be many other cases. So those all scenarios, we get some ample time to test. So when we try to present in a prototype, it gives us clear visibility on how to design it as well. So once they know that final outcome looks this way, then there will not be any deviation when you are starting developing it. Then you can free to develop and you can stick to your timelines. So your timelines will not be affected, development timelines, if you show them a working prototype. So that is the ideal design. So these all topics we have discussed last session. Now I'll try to quickly, today all types of prototype tools we'll see, and then we'll jump into, project phase where we'll take a use case. So for this scenario, for the design construction, so I'm just taking one use case called, managing products. So we have a customer, a random use case we are taking. We assume there is a customer called L'Oreal Brands, and they are actually interested in, they have lots of products, and we had a discussion with them stating that they have lots of products being released into the market, and how do we price them, and who are the suppliers to it. So they want to manage the products. So who is the right supplier for these raw materials, etc., to manufacture these kind of products, etc. So that is one area they wanted to simplify their scenario. And other, they have a finance team who are struggling to, analyze which products they have to ship in, or which products should be manufactured in large scale in coming quarters. So their focus area for finance team is which products are giving huge sales numbers and which should be, they have to, make sure that we have to reach out to the certain suppliers, more suppliers, in order to scale up the production, etc. So there are like two different teams here, where one, they're focusing on managing products which should be shipped. So maybe a distribution or manufacturing team, and others are the sales team, where two different stakeholders we are discussing with them, and they are expecting a solution, common solution for both the teams, because at the end of the day, Both the teams collectively ensure that products are available. At the same time, there is there is no high unnecessarily. If you manufacture a lot of products and then they're not going to be, there is no sales out of it, then you will go for a all objective would not be met. So we have two teams, one a manufacturing team and the sales team. Now collectively we are having a discussion, and you have nicely collected all their points etc. in a person, and now you're ready to design a wireframe. Okay, it could be any scenario, but typical for a project execution, how do we follow is we take a persona in this case, and all the requirements we group it in you can take a pen and paper and you can try to jot down whatever idea you could design, any idea. So any there is, you need not to stick to the standard templates what SAP is giving, like etc. So when our custom requirement comes, uh, then we can design any type of design. Literally any design you can want to design, you can build in UFA. There is no limitation to what you can build, and it's all about how do we present, utilize the available screen space. And then today using prototype, then finally build this. So using Azure Adobe XD build tool, we can do. So today I'll show you. See, this is built in Azure. So if you build an Azure, so L'Oreal brands, so I was assuming like we I split this into two use cases. Finance team will create a separate group, so they'll be using sales report as one, and viewing
I lost your voice, audio.
second.
Okay, you're back.
Okay, I think
Yeah,
this is a
sorry,
lag.
briefly I lost you.
Okay, sure. Now it's clear, right?
Yeah, it is clear now.
Okay. So one way is like we can use any of these tools for wireframe designing. So in this screenshot I was showing in using Azure tool. The same I'll try to use using build tool, and today we'll try to see how to leverage this particular tool, etc. So
The
some
Adobe
common
XD
features.
was very sorry.
Yes, yes.
I
Please go
I
ahead.
was think I was saying like Adobe XD was very difficult. I tried to like download the
Right.
stencil and then whoa,
Right.
that was and I deleted it.
I think any tool it takes a little bit of time to understand what all features it has. See, I know it is very plain. The problem with Adobe XD is it has something called Creative Suite. Creative Suite is like Photoshop,
Mm,
and there are like six more suite
mm,
of products are there.
mm,
So what Adobe did is in XD they try to put limited templates. When I say templates, drag and drop, etc. Those things, many minimalistic they have added.
yeah, very generally I found Adobe to be very difficult even during the Photoshop shop time.
Okay.
But some other softwares they are very intuitive, you know. Like I can say Axure is much more intuitive than Adobe. Adobe you need to spend a lot of time perhaps
Okay.
to
So
find out.
if we are comfortable any tool, it should be fine. So these are actually meant for there is a no UX designers specifically they'll be there.
Mm,
So they are like key. Their focus area is only on simplifying the complex use case with better utilization of space.
mm,
So if people who are already comfortable with Adobe etc., they'll be able to make use of
mm,
code because they can create the custom icons.
right.
I mean, it has very much like Photoshop itself. If you know it, you can do lots of things. But I think for us, build tool will be very easy to use, and followed by for like custom scratch designs etc. You can go for Azure as well. If
Mm,
Adobe XD you're finding tough, there's no issue. You can always stick to any of the tool. That's the reason any tool you go to. Even Sketch is also there for MacBook if you're using it. That
mm.
is I think paid version, and Adobe XD is free version. So that's the only. Azure only 30 days you get free trial. So whereas Adobe XD there is no limitation of as such. There is a free version of it as well.
Mm.
Okay. I think build tool up to 3 projects or 2 projects you can use it. So for 2 projects it doesn't ask. Beyond 3 projects you cannot use as well. You have to buy the license. Okay. So that's the catch for each of these tools. Um, okay. So idea is, so we are trying to present the simplest idea. So for the sales report, our idea was sales team when they open it, all the products, so product ID, product name, and under which category, whether it has to be discontinued node or in this quarter it has to be released in the market. So they have, we try to take very simple use case. So in the tabular form we are trying to present, and our idea is they should be able to search what are the product they want to search, right, which has been disconnected. So we try to present in a simple, so this on tile, and on click of this tile we're trying to present in a one simple application. So we try to take a simple use case. So the same thing if we try to build in build tool, how exactly it looks. So once you log into SAP build, so build.me is a is this an SAP official project itself. So but it's not yet mainstream. So in this case, once you log in, you can come to the, once you log in, you'll have option to, you'll find, you can watch this video, short video. This will give you a glance of what all you can do with build. But strictly what we'll try to do is, once you come, once you log in and you close it, you can create a new project. So in new project, see up to 3 projects we can create. So I have already 3 projects available here. So I'll try to delete one. Okay. Select new project. There are like 3 ways to do. One, if you are using paper sketches, like last time how we seen, so you can draw in a paper and you can import the images, etc. Or you can clone existing sample templates which you have. So for this also we have some templates. So we can pick from existing templates as well. So if you see here, uh, build tool, whatever path I have shown you, so SAP in build tool itself supports discover phase, design phase, and develop phase as well. Okay, all the templates which we are trying to talk about here, there will be lots of other templates as well. So you can click on create persona, and you can what are template which you are using, you can directly create the same template here on the using the tool as well. So instead of the document, you can create directly the persona here, and then you can start building your project as well. So it gives this option as well, and this we are skipping it now. And if you're using a pen and paper and you're trying to draw and you're trying to create a wireframe out of it, you can use this upload option. So simply by uploading files, we can link each of the elements. So all you have to do is drag and drop, and then we have to link it. Then this is one option, pretty easy option to do. But make it more meaningful, what we try to do is we'll use something called start with template option. So with the start with template option, here how we are creating a UFA project in Visual Studio Code, same all the templates which we have. So if you see here, the freestyle template, if you want to build, it's just like how you're coding it. Instead of writing a code, we drag and drop the controls. So you can choose freestyle, or you can choose work list. So you'll find object page. So various templates we'll see. For mass detail, this one will pick it up, and for analytical page we can pick it up this one. So we can pick it up list report or any other templates. So all the templates are available here, and any template we are free to choose, and we can start. So I have selected one project, and then let me demonstrate that. So I created one called manage products. So similarly, I have selected a master list report, etc. And this is how it looks. So I created 2 pages. So here, if you click on plus, so you can create which are now, if I want a work list or a freestyle or response, anything. So all I have to do is I have to click on this template, and we'll get a new page here altogether. So once I click on this, so we can start editing the elements inside this. So for Fiori applications, this is easiest one, where you have all the controls which we see here are SAP UFA controls. So if you are dragging and drop, and this that means the same control and tool is available in our UFA framework as well. So it is easy to build as well. Whereas in Azure, etc., if you're not using stencils, chances are that what are you designing, you have to understand what is the equivalent control for that as well.
Mhm.
Okay, it's taking a while. Okay, meanwhile, while it loads. So today what we'll do is how do we so real-time data. So what we try to do is I'll create a new Excel file uh, called payload, and in our application, the mock prototype, whatever we are hanging it, we'll try to create a real-time data. So idea of prototype also should be always we should try to use some real-time data. So in order to create a real-time data for the mock tool, it always expects us to have one serial number, and id should always, it should have an id field, and then you can create whatever other fields you need. So in this case, what we're trying to do is product, for in order to display product, so we'll try to create uh, so we'll create some products, etc. So in Excel, what we'll try to do is whatever data we want to simulate in the application. So we can prepare an Excel, creating an ID column, number column, description, whatever fields we wanted to add, etc., and availability. And we'll try to use the same data. How do we load this data to our prototype? We'll try to see. So randomly, I'm trying to create some data here. So we have some now we prepare one nice real-time test data, everything, all the water fields we are using in the application. So this we are we'll try to load this into our application. So once if it is ready, we'll try to see how do we load and how do we get it. I think it's taking some more time. Yeah, I think okay. Now here, if you could see the standard, this is an object page. So we can rename these fields. We can select each of the elements. Now, if we want to add within this section, if you want to add any of this actions. So if I want to add an hyperlink over here, so I can add it here. I can select this, and here I can enter, um, edit edit details. Some action we can give it and all the controls, etc., we can straight away edit. And if you want to give any action to it, so on click of it, if you want to open an URL, so on click here we have an action here, so we can select what we want to do, etc. So open dialog, etc., just like how we try to code, etc., we can try to give whatever we want to give. So in this case we are selecting a message, so page has been edited. Now if I preview this, so if you see page has been edited, so we'll be able to simulate all the like how programmatically we're trying to do, same we'll be able to simulate. So it mimics as if like a real uh, I mean as if we are coding it. However, if you click a button and you have to send a message, so however it appears message to us, etc., we can replicate. So we can tweak around with what are product name. So in this case we can manually create one entry, but if you same if automatically see, now in this case for one record we can try to, so out of this test data for one record, so we have lots of, so face for first record we can probably edit and everything, but we cannot actually replicate for all this data. So how do we do it? So in this case what we try to do is I'll change for this one record at least. So page 3 vertical box is this audio page header. Okay, so it's already loaded. So object page header, within here we are having this title, etc. So this is wash and then we say. So here are two ways to look at the things. One, we have an outline where we can hover on this area, and each hovering area will show us here. Or we can, in this case, I have three pages. So this is the third page which I added. So I can expand the page three in this case, and each section vertical box. This is how it is hovering it. So each area we can select it, and we can accordingly we can check on the right side or what all values we want to change, etc. In this case, if I wanted to change for this subsection, so I can click on this each of the individual sections. So section 1, section 2, etc. And there we can try to modify the details around. Okay. So if you want to add any property, etc., drop down list, etc. So we can add a drop down list as well. So we can tweak around. So whatever changes we want to do, we can do around. Okay. So let me show you easiest way. Go back. The same activity here I have tried to place around. So I have played around for some time. So for creating this scenario, etc., where I try to add one icon tab bar here, and then within the icon tab bar, so I what I try to do is different data elements, etc. I try to present. So same whatever fields we had it, I try to place all the fields here. So once I try to place all the fields, so we can existing template also we can edit each of the fields. We can select individual fields and we can edit, or we can add new columns, etc. And afterwards, if you want to add any other data to it, you can go to this data tab, and after going to data tab, you can click on this data editor. So if you click on data editor, so it will show us again that which are how we, if we hang multiple tables, how do we show the data, etc. So same data modeling, etc. We can provide add the details here, and we can add the relations as well. So if it is like parent and child, so foreign key, etc. So two tables we can add, and then we can add a relation by selecting it here, and one to many and one to one, etc. So we can do all the data modeling as well here. So in this case, we'll try to make it very simple. So you can go to sample section and click on import data, and if you click on import data, you can click on import file. So when you select import file, here we can try to, what we can try to do is, what are file payload we have created, we can just select the file here.
Mm.
Okay. Add the object sheet one to the data model. Okay. It says we have I think it is expecting a name. I think I have used it already, a name called object sheet. Let me name it one. So I have already uploaded with one name. So I think it is trying to read. So this is the current data. Now in this case, it has a products. Now ideally we should get face wash as the details. Sorry. Okay. So I'll delete this. So now I have deleted existing model which I previously uploaded. Now I select import. I think let me close this Excel as well. If it is already open also, then also it might face issue. Now, now I change the as products, and now I will do to load it. Okay. So if you select the samples here, now if we click on edit samples, now we should be able to see the data which we have. So face wash 1, 2, 3, 4. So L'Oreal brands. So this is what we have given availability, etc. So whatever data. So always make sure here it needs one the ID field. It should not be numeric. It has to be alphanumeric. So that means you have to have a text, etc. So at least one ID field is required in this particular Excel payload. Only then this particular report works. And rest of the columns can be anything. But first field, you have to make sure you are using an ID as a name in your Excel sheet. If you're having an ID, though you are using it in your application or not, you should have one unique ID for this tool to support. So in this case, make sure you are creating either product 3, product 4, so alphanumeric, or you can use only a text. So this is one important thing for uploading the data in the tool build tool. So now once we have all the tool data, now how do we map this particular Excel file data to our prototype? So I select this. Now we'll come back to this different other ways as well. Like I said, you can go to edit samples, and if you want one more record, just you can select plus and you can just try to add here new product, etc. You can add as well. You can say, just taking some random examples. You can say document number. So we can create our own data as well. So if you want to add any new data, if customer asks, instantly we can add to our prototype. And if you want to load bulk data, we can load bulk data, and we can show a realistic data. So if you want to delete, you can delete the row. If you want to add a row, etc., we can add. So now managing data for the prototype is simplified using this tool. Okay. Now if you come back here, so if we come back to the field, etc., on the control section, if you see, if you click on this item where we are trying to map, etc. So in this case, I try to click on this. So it shows here on the children side here below. This is each row. On click of it, what action we have to do. That also we can say. In this case, we haven't specified what if on click of it. If we want to navigate to the next page, then we can select navigate to, and we can select the page, which page we want to navigate. Now in this case, on click of it, if I want to go to make it to go to object page, so which we created just now. So we can just give it this way. Now on click of this row, it will navigate to the object page. Now how do we map the Excel data? So in this case, I selected this object number, and here it has this data. So what we'll try to do is I'll select this whole row, and in this case have a text field, and here I can just map the field which I want to have. Okay. Okay, I think I have something wrong. I have selected. Okay. God, let me just undo it. It's a little bit slow. Actually, it's not responding instantly. Okay. So here, in this case, I selected the page one directly, and then once I select the page one, what are binding, how we are doing it. So we are saying this dot get you dot bind by ID, etc. Right? So similarly, we can select the complete page and which this whole page, which Excel we want to bind. So in this case, we have one Excel. So I'll say Excel name, what we have given as products. So we can select products as the object, and here which instance we are trying to show is first record. So which are data we want to show. Now in this case, if I want to show the bonds data, etc., so we can select that and we can show for preview. So here by selecting the page, and by it will auto populate the values. So if you see it is picking the data from our Excel file. So we have to specify which Excel file it has to load the data. So once we click on preview in this case, so it will try to use the Excel data and it will try to populate the data. Okay. So in this case, I think I have used different fields are there, and it is trying to populate those fields. So what are places we'll try to map those places. It will try to match the records and it will try to populate. Okay, it will take a little bit of time to use to this particular tool, etc. But the idea over here is we can design what are controls, etc., which we have in UFI controls. As is controls, we can drag and drop and we can create it. And whenever we want to have the realistic data, we can load using our Excel files as well. So it will take few you know at least a couple of days for one project, at least if you try to practice around, so we'll get used to loading the data, etc. So it is, if you are familiar with adding the templates, etc., in the Visual Studio Code, then it is the same thing as well here as well. So only thing is, however we are doing it for individual page wise, we have to keep tweaking the changes. So these all are not, we should not concentrate on too much of details here, because this is just a prototype. This will be discarded within a day or two. So here idea is showing the realistic data on the application and trying to present what all features we are going to focus on. So in this case, we are trying to show them that we can sort them, we can filter them, etc. And likewise, we can uh, mention them that we are trying to show them different categories, like completed at one section, and summary of all the records as one section. So we are trying to play around, like we have an icon, tab bar, etc. So we are giving them, fine idea that this is how your application going to look. Okay, right. So this is one way, and cloning the project and just trying to modify the fields, etc., is other way. Okay. So using build tool, we can construct it this way. It is just like one complete project itself altogether, if you ask me. Uh, each and every item, when you try to place it here, it will be a little bit of task. Um, if you try to use some template or some clone existing thing, it will be pretty much a little bit of easy task. What I try to do is I try to create a worklist template, and I try to add, it took me an hour for constructing this. I try to add each of the elements, then I was able to get this particular desired output. Okay. So three sections: control, outline, and mapping the data. For mapping data, we use this extreme right side window, and for click action also we'll use right window. And for navigating to each page, etc., we can click on this each section here, or we can hover on individual sections as well, and those fields will be highlighted. Clear?
Mm.
So try to practice it if you're facing any issue in using any of the features, etc. So these are the simplest features which we try to. There are like lots of features in this, but we are not going to deal with the complete build tool, because we are not going to design. For
Mm.
our task is just prototype. So if they are a designer, then they'll focus on many more elements. Okay. So we can preview this. We can share this as well. So
So
rest
what
of the
type
things.
of people becomes designer? Will those are those like end users or
So you want who will be a designer?
yeah?
So designers in specific to, there will be like specific designers role is also available, just like developers how we are. So dedicated designers are also available always. So what they try to do is they play around with all. So they won't be familiar with these tools. Okay, build tool or anything, because
Mm.
designer might be, he might be building for .NET application, he might be building for SAP application. So generally designer role will be like for any technology platform, their idea is they'll try to design us mock screens which will be very generic. Okay. So here, if we have any designer, our role will be to suggest them, see, either take clues from this particular build tool, etc. It's not the end users always. So end users, if they are good with UX design, they can do, but generally end users will not do these things.
Mm.
So we have
Okay.
dedicated designers. If designer is not available, then we have to wear the hat of designer as well.
Mm.
So that's the place where we are trying to say, instead of spending too much of time, if we take the help of these tools, they have drag and drop functionality. At least it will take time for us, at least an hour or two,
Mm.
but it's worth spending the time, because if you are able to show in this fashion demo, he gets very good impression to the customer as well. So he'll be able to have a feel of how exactly the UI looks, everything, right?
Mm.
So what I'm trying to say is, if you have a designer, your role is to, you have to make sure that you show them the UFI.samples. So show them that this is how the individual elements looks like. So these are the icons looks like. So you can show them that basic text, etc. So these are the high level area. If you see here, if they want to in the design, they want to show some charts, you can show them this main home page, where individual files, controls, etc., how they look. What a designer will do is they can either replicate similar designs. It may not be exact, but bar chart means bar chart they can replicate. If it is a
Mm.
pie chart, they can replicate as a pie chart. If it is a button, they can replicate as a button. Okay. If we tell them that what all type of controls we have, if they design completely random, it will be again it will go for a toss.
Yeah.
So what we are trying to say is we try to interact with them, try to say that this is the tool sets we have available, tool sets available.
Mm. Mm.
Try to present it the same way. So customer, what happens is whatever he sees is he thinks that that's the output he's going to get. So if you try to artificially try to present lots of other stuff, and see now in this case
Mhm.
sorting filtering, if you try to present it in a completely different fashion, and the final output, though the functionality looks the same, the design looks a different way, customer will say, I think you have during prototype you have shown me different way, can we get the same thing? And it will go for a problem. So if design is different, then you have to interact with them to make sure that they try to present it the way UFA supports. Okay, so that is one point. If you are itself wearing the designer hat, then I recommend to use build tool instead of any other tool. If it is just a Fury application, if it is a custom scenario, you can go with anything, because these may not be necessary as such.
Mm.
Okay, this is just an 2-day 3-day activity, so it's not, we are not going to
Mm.
drill on in any real project, we are not going to spend beyond that. If you are exceeding beyond 3, then it's not a good advice to spend more time on this. Okay, right. So same application, if we use it in Azure tool, how do we do? So I'll just quickly show the tool. So we focus on actual phase would be development phase, but in order to have a meaningful discussion with the client. So if we show the prototype and if we can ask a lot more other questions, so they can actually relate the use case visually. So that is the whole idea of we designing a prototype. Okay. So we have a better discussion. So if they look at this prototype, they might have a question that, okay, this is not we meant. So maybe they might be referring to a different thing altogether. Okay. So like last time we have seen, so this the tool also has interactions, etc. If you see here, similarly we have the pages section here. So if you want to create a page, you can select plus icon here, and we can create in this case I'll say object page. I can create new pages, and now I'm free to design. So here I haven't installed any stencils, Fiori stencils. So Azure itself has some standard buttons, tables, etc. So I'm trying to design using this itself. So if I want to design now, object page has a header, and then I can drag and drop this, and we can readjust this as well. Okay, so I'll try to present an area below it, so I can redesign. So Azure is bit fast, and it is very responsive. Whereas build tool, the same task if I'm doing it, maybe because of bandwidth, I'm not sure, but it's not allowing me to do that much of flexibly. Okay, when I'm trying to click an action, it is actually going. It's a bit of delay. There is a lagging here.
Mhm.
So we can use simple properties here. So if we want to add a label, title, etc., so we can use a label. So we can give a nice title to it. And here we can, on the right, if you click on it, on the right, it will show us options to it. So I can edit the text here. I'll say face. Can make it a title. So I can, so we can play around with a little bit whatever we want to be. And I'll try to add some more properties. So we can use different elements here. So it's not just this element. So we can have other elements like headings. For headings also, instead of resizing etc., we can use headings etc. So I can give some hyperlink etc. So here, if you see, we hover it, it always on hovering it, we can readjust the position. So if you hover it, it will show you the same length way to place it, etc. And this some of these are like, if we play around, we have options. So two important tips I'll just try to highlight here. So whenever we wanted to have any of these actions, so two things we try to do. So we can add different borders, etc. Here we have at last. So if you wanted to give any border, etc., we can use this different where UFI how we have, etc. Same way we can try to create. So here I'm trying to fill. It doesn't make count here, but try to table. Let me take some table control table. Okay. So here we can just hover it right here on right click it. So we can have add columns etc. Inside column to the right etc. We can add it. So left etc. We can add. Even rows we can add one more row etc. So just it's like all drag and drop as say product ID, then we can add some details to it. So here so you can use top toolbars. We can use some other parameters. Um, Actually, this has some data. Okay. Now we have something of this sort, and we can create some more details around. So it's like using all tools around. We can try to do. That's, so we can create any of this. This three. Just random. I'm just trying to take some. So we can play around with basic elements, so drop downs, etc. All the basic things we have. So menus, etc. If you want to have, etc. We can add. So basic things we'll have. Using this also, we can construct all the design. So it may not look exactly the way we have the template, but we know how UFI controls, etc. looks like. So if we are using 80% cases we have tables etc and headers etc. So we can stick to the same design, we can redesign and make a rough outline etc. So it's like effectively using the space etc. And we can create each page we have to create in this case as a separate page, and we have to link each of those pages. Page we can try to go for each item. So for gradient tile we can directly use some boxes here in this way, and we can try to use fill option etc. So this way we can mimic what our titles etc we have, and the basic structure we can try to create all these things. Products. So it's all like basic elements using which we can always create our what our idea. So pen and paper one. So we have it. We can structure the same thing using these tools, and then we can use it as a reference to present. So this will give us at least some good impression and to discuss better. So without any aids, instead of using it, better to use this particular. Previously, they used to use PPTs to design the same skeletons, etc. But than using this, using a drag and drop, few of the elements here will really make our life more easy. And easiest option for what we generally use is in interactions itself. So if you click on single click, etc., you can highlight which area you want to click. So in this case, on the tile, if you select and click an interaction on the whole tile, when you click, it will be opening it. If you want to click on only on the text, etc., you have to select the text and then we have to add interaction. So we can add, in this case, I'll click on this and I'll click on double tap and I'll click on open link. Then in this case, we'll select, I think we created object page as our new page. So I can select OK. So once we add this interaction, so it will try to show. So once I preview this, so now when I click on this tile, it will take to existing. I think I have mapped to different elements. So based on the element double click, I have mapped it. I think I have to use double click. So we click double click, it is coming to this. Okay. Products interact. Okay, click tap. Okay, single tip. There's a single click as well. Let me cancel. Yes, open link. On single click, I'm trying to map the same thing. They're like two different things. Okay. What we use is object page itself, right? Object page. Yeah, object page. So I have selected object page on single click as well as on the double click. So let me preview it and let me see. Oh, strange. Maybe I have mapped the whole page for this. So I think for the product page, I have mapped this. Maybe I have given a hues this one. Let me. Okay, strange. Okay, let me remove this here. Interaction. Okay. Okay. Okay, we can try with the complete clean design. So here I have added multiple interactions on click of it. So the whole page, if I selected it and I have given interaction. So in this case, if I selected outside, the whole page I have given the list to report. So that's the reason it is taking for all this one. I have to delete these individual entries. So if they click on anywhere, I'm trying to show there. So that's the reason it was taking that particular design. So now if we see, I have removed it. Now we are able to get to this particular page. So we can add interactions. So what happened was I have added on the outside. So I have clicked on outside and then I added an interaction. So it is always taken to the list report. So we can click on which element we wanted to add an interaction and then we can add the interaction. And the moment we click on it, we should be able to show them the working prototype. So this way we can construct multiple pages. So the same example, I have tried to create a list report of some structure. So master detail, if it looks, so product ID, we have to place it here, product cost. So object page, supply details, we have to place it this way. And this is how with data, how do we show master detail report. So we can, whatever design we have it, so we can design it this way. So this gives us some rough idea of how to play. So we can add some more, if you use stencils, etc., the same thing will look more appealing, and report as well. So we can design a report in this way as well. So we are free to design the way we want. And I'll show you one example here. I think somewhere had it. Yeah, there is one more project. Let me show you. Dashboard. So if you see here, so this is something, a dashboard which for currently for the one, we'll also be doing this. So we designed one DevOps dashboard as a project for so this is how we will be also designing it in a couple of days. So in order to design this particular custom complete application dashboard, where this is in a DevOps application where you know, every weekend when our production goes, you know, which systems are down, which are up, and which are you know, in order to monitor the tracking of the systems. So we have lots of systems out there and we wanted to have a dedicated dashboard. So in order to design this, so wireframe, first we start with wireframe in order to reach this stage. So one such way was, so first I try to design the you know, in this way. So where each of the elements, if you see, I have used the basic elements itself, so boxes, etc. and I try to present it, then this is how it appears. So the basic layout, so we wanted the three sections to appear and three tabs and then the tiles. So we'll try to create this outline as such. So this gives us a reference. So after preparing this, I was able to design the same similar wireframe into a real application. So two tab sections out there, and then one date section, and then we have an icon over here. Then we have a different dash tabs around it, and then we have, the tiles around it. So the idea idea is the wireframe. It gives us a rough idea of how to where to place the controls, how to use effectively the space. So this is the only purpose of it. We should not stick into the finer details of inside what's going on. For as a developer, our focus area will be on how do we effectively use the screen space. Okay, so this gives me a rough idea of where to place, etc. And finally, my focus area will be on, how exactly I can present it using UFA controls. So here, which all UFA controls to pick around. By looking at the wireframe, we have to have our own idea. So for the styles, we can use generic tile, or we can use I have used, in this case I used custom layout altogether. So this is how we wireframes will help us to realize our design, right? So we can free to do one more. I can show you. So here in this case, if you see, we have completely non-UFI solution. So completely designed in, there are like different designs out there. So some payment gateway around, we have a design. So in this case, it looks completely uh, different altogether. So if you say you have a profile, you have a balance transactions, credit cards, etc. Now what we try to use, if we have to build the same design in UFI, how do we build, etc. So we try to present, so we can design the same thing in wireframe, and then this is how I'm trying to present. So for the left hand side, in order to get this particular balance, transactions, etc. So we can use something called SAP TNT.navigation list. So this control will give us a similar, how we have it here. So transactions, payment list, etc. And for, in order to have a header and icon, etc., we can use an object page container, and object header can have title, etc. And to use different elements in it, we can use object attribute, text attribute, etc. So we can create a wireframe, or we can visualize which all controls to place. So in this case, if for simplest cases, you can straight away understand which controls to use, but you can prepare your own within the wireframe also. You can write it out which control to use within it. So the same design, I can write which control to use. I can use a form here in this case. I can try to write it down which all controls to use within this. So you can have multiple ways of using the wireframe to translate into our actual development. So in this case, I tried to present the same control. So in order to have a search bar, etc., search, etc., we can use sapui.comp.filter bar as a property. It provides search. It provides multiple values. And in order to give an icon, etc., so transfer, shift, etc., here there is an icon over here. If you're able to see the screen, if you're able to see the screen properly, so we have different icons here, transfer, etc. So how do we design these kind of icons, etc.? So one such way is either using a generic tile or a segment button, or we can use using CSS also. We can create the border, and then we can place two icons. We can relatively position them as well. So there are like multiple ways of achieving. So any design you take, name it. So we can design a wireframe, and we can using our existing UFI tools, etc. We have to structure our layouts. So in this case, overall structure, I could 1, 2, and 3. So there are three elements to it. So one on the left hand side, one on the top, and one on the right, etc. Right, and then on the bottom as well. So we can have to break down into different parts, and then we have to construct a wireframe, and we can write it on our elements which controls to use as well. So this is one approach by which we'll minimize our development time. So we know which control to use to translate this particular design into an UIF application. So overall, today's learning is how prototypes will help us to bring our idea into reality. Okay. So these approaches will help us in designing better UIs. So this is the approach which I follow. There might be many other ways which we can follow, but general thumb rule is any design we can build in UFI. There is no limitation to it. So this is completely non-SAP solution. Even I try to present it in this fashion. I'll try to design this as well. I haven't yet got time to design this. So I have taken a random example and I try to present. If we have to design this particular design, how do we, what controls we have to use, etc. I just thought of it and I just try to present in a wireframe kind of model. Okay, so you are free to take any design and try to take as complex as possible, try to design a wireframe to it and try to identify which controls to use. So that access will give us the ability to build as well. Okay, any questions so far? So
No, I think